Hey everyone. Okay, so I'm glad we are having this session to discuss flow, the issue and the concept as well. So this is what I had in store for you. So we've worked on this issue for about almost a year, like in the editing process, but I don't recall really having your own personal thoughts on the concept of flow and whether this state of flow have ever experienced it, like in whether it's in dance or in life or in in general, whether it was something that you've already experienced or you've already thought about prior to working on this issue. So I'm gonna throw this question at all of you, Anna, Gabriel, and Şebnem, and I will start with Anna.
So the question whether I have, like, what my personal thoughts of flow
Thoughts
are.
and experiences. Have you ever experienced that state of flow before, do you think? And when was that and how? Vinicius, hi.
Hi.
Glad to have you with us today.
You did it. Rana, you managed to pronounce Vinicius' name.
Great, I did it. I'm happy.
Very nice. Hi, nice to meet you all. Sorry for being late.
No, it's very nice to see you, really. I was looking forward to meet you. I mean, yeah. So let's resume. I was asking the editors if they have ever experienced the state of flow before working on this issue, and what are their thoughts on flow, and how did the working on this issue has changed their mind or not about the concept of flow or the state of flow. And I was like starting with Anna.
Yeah, and I think I might have already mentioned that. Oh, there's kind of I hear like kind of a rebound, like a, I don't know. I hear myself twice, an echo. Okay.
Oh, I don't know. For me, I hear you once.
Yeah, so I think before starting to work on that issue, we had a conversation about whether I wanted to edit flow. And since I usually connect this feeling to dance, I was, I'm kind of reluctant to the concept of flow in dance, actually, because it feels to me, or in the context where I'm dancing, it feels like an imposition, like something that you need to achieve. Yeah. And so I'm really critical about this state, or this kind of idealization of a state of flow in dance, because maybe it's also for aesthetics that I really just enjoy seeing a dancer, a dancer that is kind of a thinking dancer, like who is struggling, who is overthinking things, who is, like a human that is hesitant. And so I really enjoy staccato movements in my aesthetic opinion.
Okay.
But then again, like, I thought that therefore it's a challenge for me to go with the topic of the flow, and just to figure out, like, maybe just to learn about it in order not to be reluctant to it anymore. And of course, like, I think, like, I experience flow more often than I actually admit. Because when it's happening, I might not even be aware of it's happening. So a very common flow for me is like when I'm cooking. It's just happening. Like, it's and all of the movements are so well kind of aligned that it's just like, yeah, it's just a thing that you don't really have to structure.
But do you actually enjoy cooking? Is it an enjoyable activity to you?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. Both can happen.
Okay.
But yeah, or again today, I was in a dance class this morning where there was a complex choreography, but once you had it, there was such an incredible flow, and I can just very much relate to the feeling of a flow in dance when there is a certain structure to it, and I can relate to the enjoyment of it, of course, and it's kind of, for me, it's like the moment when I'm becoming fearless, or when fear disappears, and it's just like very clear what's happening.
Yeah. Nice. I like this bit about fearlessness. It's, I think we have, this idea didn't come across in the issue, but it's worth actually exploring. Yes. The fearlessness, how fear dissipates when you are in a state of flow. That's very interesting. Şebnem, what about you?
Yeah, I think I am very much interested in flow in all of my life, the concept of flow. But I also know that it is an overused concept. Maybe so when something is overused, you don't want to talk about it anymore. I had some parts in my academic writing that I connect flow with dancing, the experience of dancing together, and so on. But then I said, okay, this is overused, and maybe we have to be a little bit skeptic about it. So in some way, I shared the thoughts of the initial thoughts of Anna, because if you don't think on it deeply, you just say things over and over and again. Oh, flow is good, flow is dancing is flow, and so on. So, but the contributions we worked on opened new ways to new ideas about it. Like, for example, in Asian dance, we see that flow comes through discipline. So it was interesting. But if about my experience of flow, I can say I remember that I climbed a hill when I was young. Maybe I was not a child but I was a teenager, or I don't know, maybe 15 years old. I don't know.
Okay.
I climbed a hill together with others, and I remember that I really experienced flow at that moment, because it's you forget everything, and kind of time is not a concern, fatigue is not a concern, of you just climb and you want to, and the hill is over. I mean, you are at the top of the hill and you want to climb more because you like the feeling. I can say that this is a kind of flow feeling for me, being fearless, being timeless, and in some way happy, of course. You are in a state of happiness. So I think in extreme sports, that's why people like extreme sports, because you are pushed into being in flow, I guess. Maybe dance also has some connection with it, but we think about dance a lot. So it is interesting to think outside of dance also about flow and other kind of concepts. And I think we need to explore more about flow now. I feel like new concepts come up.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought up sports, because when flow is discussed in a Western way, in a Western context, usually it's actually sports that comes to mind first. The first thing, the first example they give actually is about sports people like doing their thing and forgetting about everything else. This is the most common experience of flow that people refer to is sports, not dance.
I see. In theater studies, the acting is also connected with flow. You want to flow. You want it to flow like a river. So maybe that's why I was thinking that maybe in dance it's also.
For sure, for me, in dance is the easiest. I mean, for me, it's the easiest because there is no competitiveness, at least from my point of view. There was never competitiveness. In sport, there is competitiveness. You need to be aware of other players. But yet, still, yet, they find flow, kind of. So I found it interesting because of that.
And I can say another example about theater performance. When you are in flow, you are acting the character or action. You are in an action, and you begin like watching yourself from outside. Someone else is moving you. Something else is moving you, and you are watching. Oh, what's happening to this body and to this person?
Yeah.
This is an experience of flow also in the theater. And this is very much connected with unconscious, I guess. So, or subconscious, we can say.
Have you experienced it, Şebnem, on stage?
Yes, I think so. It's very interesting feeling because you have been driven by a force which is related with the character or the action you are doing. And that's interesting. I didn't know that I was able to do such thing, you say.
You will
From
get lost
outside.
in your character, kind of. You become the character.
Something makes you the character and you are surprised watching this.
Oh.
Like from here with a camera or something like that. Kind of.
Nice. I like that.
So you lose some kind of control. I mean, mind control.
But it's an enjoyable way of losing mind control. Like you enjoy.
It's enjoyable, and surprising. Enjoyable, surprising, and creative also, of course.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. What about you, Gabriel?
I actually have a lot to say based on what Anna and Şebnem said. I do agree it's I mean, I'm not talking about my personal experience with flow, more about the concept of flow first. I do agree that it's something that is very overused, a term and a concept, and it's extremely polysemic, right? I think that's why when we assemble those texts in an issue and we realize that this term can mean so many things, but at the same time, they all connect together, it's because it's already part of a semantical field that we are aware of. But I think that when something is overused, we don't necessarily need to put it away, or we can also specialize. I think when a concept is overused, it's time to specialize and create other sub terms, right? And I think that in terms of flow, there's always this assumption of something positive, and it's not necessarily positive. It's not necessarily. It's just a state of moving and a state of mind. Let's say that can be positive or negative, or it just is, right? Because it is shaped by its structure. When you say, and also it shapes the structure, which is the whole yin yang thing about structure and flow, which we talked about. But also when you say, oh, I get in a flow when I'm cooking, well, you already have the kitchen and you have the equipment you need to cook, right? Like if you don't find something you need, you're gonna get out of the flow. You have to have the structure established and the ingredients and stuff. And also sports, you need the field or whatever, wherever you're playing, and you need the rules.
True.
And then you can flow. But also this flow can be very repetitive, like when you're cooking and you're not really into it, but you have to eat, and it's like but you get in the flow because you already know what you're making. It's the same recipe, etc. So there's also this other side of flow, which is the more repetitive, and I would even say it could also lead to, there's also a flow that we're seeing, like the desire for flow, which is seen as something positive, even when it comes from a place of authority. There's a longing for flow, which as Şebnem described, is when you lose control and you stop thinking, but not necessarily through an artistic realization or something, but more through letting go of your ability to think, through fascism, right? It's also a form of flow. You're also longing for flow when you're voting for an authoritarian or something like that. You also want to be able to live your life within in a certain structure that will allow you to not have to hesitate or question so much. So that's why I think we need to take care when we think about flow as something necessarily positive, something moving you, a force moving you. It's not necessarily divine. It can also be like a jinn or something. There are many possible forces that are not positive that can move you. So the flow is not this idealized state. It's something that can be whether positive or good, but you always have to be aware a little bit. And I think I was thinking about my experiences of flow, and I think there's a part of me is always a little bit aware and a little bit questioning what's going on, just to make sure I don't get into a cult. Because you can flow your way into a cult too.
Oh my God, that was a huge rationalization of flow.
That's a sort of flow too.
I didn't see this coming, honestly. So I'm gonna have to ask you. You kind of alluded to how flow can be negative, but I'm gonna let's reclarify this bit. So you think people like voting for a totalitarian regime, they do it because they are enjoying they are enjoying the fact that they don't need to think. So this is a state of flow they are going through, like when let's give another example of how a state of flow can be a negative experience.
Well, since no one said anything, I think I can
Yes,
risk
please.
something. No, because I think it's really connected to the piece that I wrote, because I agree that a state of flow has to some extent a mindlessness to it, because you are just going with the flow to some extent, but this can mean a bunch of different things, right? Like Gabrielle was pointing, the very like reactionary inertia of society, you can see it as just like this basic rhythm that people go through the emotions, and that this aspect of flow and of just going through your society's flow, your workflow, and your the flow that is expected of you, let's say, it's just going with the motions, right? That's I think that the very negative and reactionary inertial dimension of flow, which is true. And like we were discussing about cooking, like we needed to just have a daily life, but we also can't just let it be the dominating overarching rhythm of everything, right? So but it's always, I think, a kind of a negotiation. It's always ambiguous, I think, to some extent. I mean, I'm a writer, mainly a writer of fiction and an editor, like in the day-to-day, but I'm also a drummer. I like to play the drums. And it's maybe the one thing I do, at least like as a practice, that I don't think at all. There are no words, and that's why it's so liberating.
Awesome.
Because the words are in my head all the time, and I like them and I work with them, but it's also very good to have something that you do that has a structure to it, but you can also just submit to it. And most of the time I'm by myself. I do sometimes play with people, but when I'm playing by myself, I mean, I'm just setting the rules for myself, but still the flow sort of takes me, and I don't really control it in the way that I control other things, I guess.
That's awesome. This is an awesome example as well. Like, and I'm not a musician, but I have a fascination for. I mean, I'm fascinated with musicians, and especially the improvised groups also of musician. How, I mean, I just look at them. I mean, I enjoy the music, of course, but I enjoy looking at them because there is a collective flow happening usually, and they are enjoying it to the core, and it's just mesmerizing to watch. Like, yeah, this collective creation that happens in the moment, and nothing outside it actually matters. Like, yeah, I don't know. Yes, most probably for me, flow is associated with creativity. So it's hard for me to think about monotonous activities as a flowy activities. Like even the cooking example. I mean, chefs who enjoy really what they are doing, they go every day, like looking forward to getting into the flow of cooking. Like, it's their passion. It's their passion to actually make the food, and they get lost in it. Also, in my mind, I mean.
I wonder also. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you.
Please keep your thought. I'm gonna just ask a question and get back to you. So, what is the problem? Okay, this is a hypothetical question just to think about. So sometimes we associate only negative things with certain words or concepts. And sometimes we associate only positive things with certain word and concept. And we are always critical of that, and we want to find the balance, like find both sides of the equation. But in this case, what if a concept is only positive? What makes this threatening or not acceptable notion to have a concept that is mostly positive? I mean, you don't need to answer straight away, but it's just a question that occurred to me while we were talking. So Anna, you can say, and then we come back to this question.
No, I actually wanted to again argue for flow, or well, what we've been talking about here, or what I just heard now, is that flow is also a state of connected to a state of not thinking or not thinking things. Mm-hmm. And I just think that that's not always true. Like, there is, of course, also a flow in writing, for example, and creativity, and having a lot of thoughts, like, and then one thought is galloping after the other. So I think there might be, yeah. Oh, even when you're questioning, and then you start questioning, and the next question comes up and up and up. So yeah, I guess that this is also a flow, experience of flow that I know.
No, you're totally right. I don't think it's mindlessness in the sense that we don't think. I think it's mindlessness in the sense that we are not distracted by so many thoughts, like unrelated thoughts. Like, in our daily life, we are all the time, like, our heads are buzzing, like zillion things at the same time. I mean, even in my state of waking up, I am this way. Like, unrelated things, I'm catching up with my mind, kind of like things that are not related. When you are in the state of flow, you are in the zone. So even if you are thinking in the same direction. Like, your thoughts aren't distracted, they are flowy, like they are going in the same direction. They are not contradicting each other. They are not, there is no struggle. This is it. Yeah, I think this is what makes a state of flow an enjoyable experience, because there is no struggle. Nothing is beating nothing. Even in your mind, ideas aren't really like in a combat kind of states. I mean, you can argue with yourself. I don't know if that's flow.
But that's why I said I don't think a concept cannot be entirely positive, but we need to make it really specific. And the concept of flow is not specific enough. Because that's why I'm saying it depends on the structure. Like the social inertia, when you're so caught up in the flow that you cannot question the structure you're in, that's not good. Like if you're a fish in a bowl and you're swimming in circles, you're gonna think you're in a flow, but you're just swimming in circles, which is very different from a fish in a river, where the flow is constantly shaping the structure. It depends on the flexibility of the structure too. And also when it comes to thoughts, also the stream of consciousness, like for example, in French, stream of consciousness is flux de conscience. I think in Portuguese too, right? It's like a flow of consciousness. Stream, yeah, it already gives this idea. But it can also become a neurosis. It can also become so many. A flow also doesn't say at which speed. It can be a very, very slow flow, and it's still a flow. It may even look like it's not moving from outside, but there's still a flow going on. Or it can be too much. It can be a flood, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think we need more specific terms to talk about different kinds of flow, because when you say, "Oh, I got into a flow," it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
True.
To that point, I think there's sorry to go back to my text, but I think there's a point that actually goes directly to that question, because I make the distinction in there, because you can find a lot of anthropologists, for example, when they're going to describe religious trends in religions where this happens, they will describe it as a sort of mechanical obedience, right? Or mindless obedience. And comparing to like a military march, I think Leroy Gourhan makes that comparison. I'm not sure, but I think they're completely different, right? If you look like, I've been to several terreiros in Brazil, and you look at the people who are following the beats, and they are essentially dancing. They have a degree of autonomy, even if to the religious dimension they would be like embodying the actual principles, spiritual principles of the Orishas and so on, or the Loas. But they are dancing. They are not just following a mechanical grid, right? So I think like Gabriel was saying, the rigidity of the flow maybe could be a source of distinction, right? Is this something that there's no degree of freedom or autonomy? Is the person is just absolutely following a grid? Or is this something where under a structure, the person can actually have their own, autonomy, their own like singular flow inside a larger flow, instead of just being, a 4/4 beat that you have to move your limbs in a precise mechanical way, like a cog in a machinery, right? Those are very different kinds of submission to a larger flow. They're not the same kind of thing. And just going back also to Anna's, I think that she was right to say that not all flow is mindless, but I do think that even when you're writing and you get into a flow writing, what happens there is that you don't second guess yourself, right? You're able to get into this high state of concentration. And I think maybe there's this ambivalence between the two senses of meditation, right? The meditation can be, in the Eastern sense, just emptying your mind completely, or in the Western sense, like focusing very intensely on a specific thing. And I think when you're getting to a flow, the two like tensions are there, right? Like losing yourself completely in something and just not thinking really of outside stimuli or something.
And I would like to say something about this mind issue. For the Far East, we have a contribution from about Tai Chi Chuan, Chinese practice. And we discussed there the mind-body unity. Mind-body unity is very important for the Far East, Chinese and Japanese. And suspension of the mind is for attending a state of mind-body unity. It is not being mindless or kind of, but making the mind not as an obstacle to act, or mind is usually acting as an obstacle to body and moving and flow and everything. So mind is there and it's united with all other things, kind of in the state of.
True, and she also mentioned spirit, which is totally inexistent in the Western discourse. Like
when you speak in English, you say mind-body unity, but usually when you speak in the Chinese and Japanese language, I guess, you also mean the spirit, because the term itself has the notion of spirit also. When they say mind-body, Japanese has only one word for mind and heart, so it is almost impossible to separate.
Really?
That's right.
That's so interesting.
Kokoro. It is kokoro, and sometimes it's translated as mind, sometimes as heart, but usually as mind and heart together. And it has the notion of spirit also in it.
There is a notion of
Spirit
in it. Yes.
Mind, heart, spirit, everything in one word, kind of.
Yes.
When you speak with Western people, we were speaking with Japanese professor, and where is your mind? He asks, and we say, where is your heart? And we say, we do this. But where is your kokoro?
Sit. This.
No. Where is it? You cannot. So it's not clear for them.
You cannot, point to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This goes to your Cartesian questioning, Anna. So they are not separate in many cultures to begin with, which is great. I mean, how can we unite them again? Like, they are not separate aspect of our being. No?
Well, that's what I try to argue for. And
exactly.
yet, I mean, in dance, and now I'm going to argue against my text.
Okay.
The dancers themselves perceive themselves as having a body and a mind that are independent from each other and need different training, and need different kind of tasks to do. So it's something that it's so ingrained, and it may be not just because of our it may be just because of our what we learn at school and how we talk about things, but it's something that is being learned in the practice as well, which I find really interesting, which is interesting for me, because of course I want to dissolve this dichotomy, but then I'm kind of disregarding all the experiences of dancers that are dancing, because if they that's the way that many of them perceive what they're doing. So I just wanted to
how do they perceive it as bodies and mind? Give me an example.
Okay. I think it's for example the Gaga technique, where you have to really think of an image and then embody it. So that's actually like two different operations to do in a way. It's there is a specific vocabulary, and you have to really use your imaginary head in order to act upon your body. Maybe I'm not being very correct with what I'm saying, but I see that their discussion about what to do with the mind and what to do with the body in order to achieve something within a technique. It's a metaphor that is kind of powerful and sometimes useful even, in order to achieve some specific state or some specific movement quality or some specific, as I said, technique. So, it's being used and for for the base of some.
No, I get what you mean exactly. In so many classes, actually, imagination is a core component. But I'm also questioning whether imagination is a mind faculty.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's hard to separate, because we are so the aspiration is so ingrained, exactly as you said, even in our school system, like in our cultures also, like it's not just a European thing. It's, I think, in many other countries too. Like, it's hard to overcome the separation of mind and body, to unite them. I don't know, Gabriel, maybe you can elaborate from a very logical and rational point of view. Can they be like united, body, mind, spirit, and heart?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's the same thing. You cannot separate it. Vinicius was saying that there's a difference between the Western meditation and Eastern meditation, but where in the Eastern one you're trying to get rid of your thoughts, and in Western one you're trying to focus on one specific point. But that's not my experience. I think that, I mean, especially this technique, this Buddhist technique I was doing a course on, it's more about focusing on your feelings in your body to an extent that you get in such a flow that you're actually seeing how all those the pain and all the pleasure you feel, they're actually connected to your mind and to memories and it's very and the goal is just to feel that, how everything is connected and how everything is changing all the time inside your body, you know, and in your mind too, and in the world. So when you get to this point in which you feel, because it's not something rational, right? If we can talk about, and and here I'm maybe betraying my character, but it's not something that you can actually get to a rational realization of. You have to feel, and when you get to that point and you feel that there's no separation between the mind and the body, which is logical, right? Like what are thoughts? It's electricity, and there's a material component to thoughts and feelings that are very obvious, but we tend to forget them, right? We think it's there in this ethereal other dimension, and they're not. It's all part of the same thing, which is maybe why dance is so important, because dance allows you to feel this connection, which is there all the time, but we tend to forget.
That's right.
And maybe I come back to your point about negative and positive, Jana, very, very briefly.
Yes, please.
I think that if someone is thinking about flow in a positive way, then this means it's usually that that person thinks about structure in a negative way, and the vice versa. If you are thinking structure is something positive, you think flow is something negative. So this flow and structure is very interesting. Having these twin issues together is very interesting for me.
Because they are not separate, actually. Because they are not separate, as we like came to conclude, flow needs.
You are mute, Jana.
So flow needs structure to happen. So they are not separate. We cannot have like negative ideas about structure and get into a state of flow. It's
and
how
vice versa is true also.
You cannot have you can have structure without having flow. I mean, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong. Like bureaucracy for me is the opposite of flow. Like going into the office and doing the same monotonous thing every day, like with no prospect of evolving or doing anything else. Like this is a structure where, yes, motion happens and it's repetitive also, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not flowy. It's draining. It's the opposite. Maybe this can be the two sides of flow. Like there is a flow that kills your everything, your mind cells, your body cells, and your heart cells, and there is a flow that that makes you grow. Like maybe both of them are flow. They are both of them streams, but one is like harmful and the other one is not harmful.
But why do you think it's harmful? It might not be your flow, but it's a flow that is necessary. We also need circular flows to have systems. We also need bureaucracy. And some people do find a sort of happiness, a sort of good flow in this repetitive thing. A lot of people really need this repetition in order to feel like they have a flow in life. And sometimes in a very, very extreme way. And it's still, you know, legitimate. And it's still, it's not just because it's not our form of flow that we should consider it as a bad thing. I think that's my main, yeah.
I will take this to also mention another text in the structure issue. It's kind of Ellen's text, but also the Laban's text. Rudolf Laban, how he worked on like making the movement of factory workers more flowy and more enjoyable to the workers themselves. So this is something that he's done in his career. Like how to, and I think, in my opinion, he did it with every good intention. Like he wanted the workers in the factory to actually enjoy the repetitive movement they do from morning until evening. How can they enjoy? How can he make them enjoy the motion? But this in itself, in and by itself, means that the factory workers actually don't enjoy the motion. Like bringing someone to make them enjoy the process of repetitive movement all day long means that they don't enjoy it, but they think it's necessary. So yeah, I'm generalizing. Maybe some people like doing the same thing every day, their entire life. Yeah, you have a point, but in general, yeah, I would like to meet them. This will be an interesting story, actually.
I mean, for me, it has to do something with reliability, maybe. And
reliability.
Yeah, and to trust on something happening every day, maybe, you know, like to have the privilege of trusting that, I don't know, that the simplest things, that the water will run, you know, like that's the electricity will go. But for me, it's like it starts with that the sun will rise and set every day, that we have like the time of, you know, that there's things that will happen and repeat, and we don't have to think about it. I mean, I'm just using the time example because I'm reading this book with astronauts who do not have day and night. There is no day and night unless they say so. So
Okay.
They cannot rely. They really have to invent their days and nights and really wake up and say, okay, this is a new day. Although they can clearly see that day and night is like, I don't know, all over the place.
We give this repetitive flow that actually structures our lives for granted. This is necessary. Yeah. This is agriculture. And we think that because capitalism and alienation has corrupted this flow so much that we are against the repetitive flow, but it's not. We actually need it. It's life.
And children need it and like it also. Very interesting. They like routines. They feel peaceful in routines because they are flowing all the way. So
yeah. Isn't that structure though?
That's the thing. That's the thing. You cannot separate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, true. Actually, yeah. For me, what you are mentioning is structure, but it can be flow also because
it's flow within a certain structure, right? And
yeah.
All right, I have to go. I have a meeting at 2.
Thank you so much, Gabriel.
Thank you.
I think, yeah, actually, the hours up. We choose. Thank you for joining us. We enjoyed meeting you also.
Yeah, no, it was great talking to all of you, and I'll look forward to just
I hope-
reading the issue.
I don't know if you'd be open to be a guest again at one point.
Sure, maybe, yeah. We can see, yeah.
We can maybe focus a little bit on your text, on your work in general.
Yeah, no, it was really nice meeting all of you.
Great.
Great session. It was a lot more intimate than the other one, but it had a better flow.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.